interrupt my groove today. Been watching gray skies move away. I just don't think that I can lose, and I might just take a cruise and let the sunshine play. Something more, something new, something you get a...
Welcome back, everybody. Nice to have Iration serenading us one last time this year. But as always, Drew, joined by you. How are you living this evening?
Good, man. Good to be back. I'm super excited about the open week, St. Andrews. This is going to be a fun week. I think the golf course is going to be baked out, which is going to be a lot of fun. Well, how are you feeling? Where are you at with this?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. I'm just super excited. I feel like the Open is a great tournament, one to end the approach on, but also to come back after a little bit of a hiatus. We didn't do a 4th of July show. I think I was in Hilton Head 2 weeks before that. So we haven't been doing it as much, but if there was a tournament for game theory, this would be it. And we'll get into it more. That just there's so much randomness and luck. Like, what did Bobby Jones say? I think it was Bobby Jones said there's just so much luck to win this tournament, and then he went on to win in that right after he said that. But it's true, and we'll get into that. But I'm kind of laughing at all the people posting model stuff. I'm like, gosh, that's going about it the wrong way. But
I agree.
If
you had to rank the majors, like if you were to rank the majors right now, where does the Open fall? And I think this one, particularly for me, I typically have the Open as the third behind the U.S. Open. But being at St. Andrews, I think this year it's kind of makes its way up to 2 for me. Where are you at with that?
So are you talking about as a fan, as a DFS player?
As a fan in general.
You know, yeah, here's what I'd say. The Masters #1, obviously, but I'd say there's a tie. There's T2 is a tie between the Open and the U.S. Open. Slight lean to the U.S. just being a Patriot.
That's right.
But yeah, I love the Open. We're on the East Coast, so I like waking up early and having golf on. And this past week at the Scottish Open, I had a nice sweat going into the weekend. In the 555 contest, there was only like 13 individuals that had 6 of 6. I was one of them, and I was sitting chilly. But then all my golfers blew up over the weekend. Harding, Rose, Ricky. It sucked. But I mean, still made money. But gosh, it could have been great. But yeah, I love waking up this early. So, you think this is behind the U.S. Open, but that changes at St. Andrews.
Yeah, specifically at St. Andrews, just because it's one of those courses. I know Carnoustie and Birkdale, like we know these courses, but like, especially watching Tiger win this twice, it's one of the cooler golf courses. Just the way that it meanders through the town when you get towards 17 and whatnot. It's cool. I just like St. Andrews in general, and so this is by far my favorite Open Championship golf course, and I think it's going to play exactly how the R&A wants it to play, which is perfect for us.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be. It's not the most difficult. Right. In the rotation, but yeah, it's how they want it to play, and that's good. I think we're going to see some crazy things happen, which tends to happen on these link style golf course. But before we really dive into that, because there's a lot that I know you and we kind of want to say, and what maybe we want to think of as we go into kind of handicapping this event. But I just wanted to talk about not live so much the tour, but just it as a DFS perspective. We only had 2 tournaments, one where DFS was available there, and they only do Showdown, which I kind of like. But I tell you what, there is so much of an edge within Live right now, and you can think whatever you want to think about it. Like I wish it wasn't around, but you know what? All bias aside, it's likely here to stay for a while. Like it, and again, I didn't want it to work, and I kind of still don't. But right. Honestly, it was more entertaining watching Live the other day than the John Deere, whatever, last week or whatever that was. The quality that they had on, like, I know I watched it through YouTube, was actually really entertaining. And I hate the shotgun start, but I tell you what it did is you see action nonstop, no real commercials, no real breaks, really. You just see golf shots and that presented in an entertaining way. But back to DFS, it reminds me of the old days, when there wasn't strokes gain data. People just leaderboard watched and think that whatever has happened the day or the days before is going to happen again. And people just make stupid decisions. And yeah, so without that, it's just blind, and gosh, there's so much an edge there. So I just wanted to throw that out as a DFS perspective that I'm actually, if Liv's going to hang around, we can think whatever we want about think about it, but as a DFS perspective, it just reminds me of the old days, and not a lot of data out, and it's yeah. I mean, what do you think about it? I don't know if you played in
I
any of the
did.
showdowns at.
I
Oh, did
did.
you?
I actually played little to no John Deere and went strong with the live. And the thing that you mentioned that I think is right now we have such an advantage because the field themselves, there's so many Asian tour players that are really,
Mhm.
really good that nobody knows anything about. And I also like the fact you brought up something, the shotgun start. Originally, I hated the shotgun start, but we've eliminated draws, right? There's no
Yeah,
bad draws, there's no good draws, it's just golf. And yeah, you could start on a hole that's not ideal, but I do think there's a lot of value in the kind of the way they set it up. And I assume over time we're going to have standard 3 round contests would be my guess. But no, the showdown's fun. And listen, the field was way better than what we were playing on the John Deere. So
yeah,
if again, if there's any advantage you can get, especially early on with Live, and I do think it's gonna. I mean, it's they're pulling players. It sounds like they're after this golf tournament. You could expect some more decent names to head over after the major championship season's gone. But if they keep pulling names and they keep it having a endless amount of money, it's not going anywhere for a while. And
yeah,
and so it's either like whether your morals behind it or like you and I, like I'm a PGA Tour guy, right? I wish that we weren't talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
this, but from a beneficial standpoint, DFS wise, I think you put all that aside. If we can make a few dollars, then to hell with it.
Right.
Let's roll with it. And I think that the Portland event from the London event was considerably better as far as coverage
Yeah.
was concerned. I thought it was smoother, and I expect them to continue to kind of to get better and better, and not to get off topic here, but the United States judicial system is there's gonna be some lawsuits going down. I was
Hmm.
reading something about it today. So again, I think 2 years, a year from now, it's probably going to be free to play wherever you want.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's the way it's going to trend because I think the PGA is going to have their hands tied to the point where if they don't allow that, then it gets to where you're starting to lose guys. And then at what point are your fields watered down because you have 30% of the top name guys playing somewhere else? And I don't think that's
Mhm.
good for the Live Tour. I don't think that's good for the PGA Tour. So I think that there's going to be some middle ground met, eventually at some point.
Yeah, super well said, and and I didn't want to like it, and I don't. I really obviously work in mental health, and I hate the Saudi connection and their stance on a lot of human rights and where the money's coming from. You just kind of hate it, but if not that we are, but if we were removing that, and I watched what I watched 2 weeks ago, I'm like, gosh, this is a huge. I would invest in this. I was super impressed with the quality of what they are presenting, and then the golf product on Saturday. Going into Saturday, it was people. I think people lie. They have their biases, but you had DJ Brooks, Bryson was in there too, all within a shot to win, and then Gooch making runs, and I know Grace had a great day. It was good golf to watch. Yeah, Brooks kind of blew up, but just those names in there, and it didn't look like any other golf tournament that you hadn't seen. It looked like they were wanted to win. They were playing for a lot. The crowds were funny. The golf course looked great, but
Yeah.
and also that on a side note, the team aspect, which I've wondered this whole time, like what the hell is the point with the team aspect? I do not get that at all. But it was just an interesting sidebar to keep up with how the teams are doing. And the Aces had such a big lead because they were smoking it, but it actually got tight there toward the end. And because there's so much money in winning as a team, that was kind of compelling too.
It
I
reminded me a
just
lot of like in the FedEx Cup playoff, right? Like where
Mhm.
where where they're showing where you are as far as like in the 125. Like, okay, this
Mhm.
person just bogeyed, so he teetered outside the 125. And they add that element to the team aspect as well. And I think they've made it really enticing for players. They've taken really good care of the caddies as far as payouts
Yeah.
go. We saw kind of
Did you see
how
that jet? The jet
yeah,
they
the
were all
plane
in?
they're
Yeah.
riding in style in, and and again, that's it's enticing, right? Like if you're showing up on a weekly basis with guaranteed money, um, and I think the model for Live, and I know it's not a Live show, but I think the model is that they start picking off the college guys,
Mm-hmm.
um, and really kind of the guys start making a name for themselves, and it grows like that because it's super enticing to like leave college and know that you have this assured money, right? Everybody wants to go play on the PGA Tour. That's the dream, but the reality is it's not as easy and it's not as lavish of a lifestyle as one may think. Outside of the top
Yeah.
15, 20 guys, it's more of a grind and going and missing cuts and spending money on airfare and hotels and things like that. It adds up. So they have a lot of things to entice players. And the last thing I'll say is the 2 golf courses they've played have been fantastic. They've been tough.
Yeah.
They've been challenging. And it's that I like too. It's not been a birdie fest, and it'll be interesting to see kind of how this evolves over time and the kind of tracks that they get to go play. So definitely some positives, but of course, the overlying negative of kind of where it's coming from. But it's either like, if it's going to be here, it's going to be here. And if it's going to be a good product, then it's going to be something I'll watch.
Yeah, and just coming back from a DFS perspective, my wife asked me, "He's like, how do you feel about it?" And I was like, you know what, I think it's going to worry because she's open to DFS now because we made money profit last couple of years, and this year is actually working out really well for us. And she's like, "You worry about Live?" I'm like, "Yeah, I thought this was going to threaten DFS." And then I got lucky the first round of first DFS. I think I finished second and won like $5,000. And yeah, got lucky because who knows? But from a DF coming back and just circling all back from DFS perspective, I hope they don't release strokes gained data. They don't keep any of that. There's a huge. It's like the old days. But let's bring it back to the Open here. We got great golf. This is gonna be great viewing. There's so many thoughts I have, and I'll just share a little of them, and then we'll go, and then you and I will just trade. First is and it doesn't look like it right now, but things will change by day. But betting outright, unless it's like a great number, wait till the tee times draws come out. Please, everybody starts on 1. So the wind advantage is so much more exaggerated at St. Andrews and at the Open at anywhere else. So please wait. And I know it doesn't look like it right now. The wind looks pretty tame right now, but gosh, just like it did the Scottish the night before, it really illuminated a advantage there, and it likely something was going to happen there. And so if you bet it like a couple weeks out, I mean, unless it's a great value, whatever. But man, the tee times can just make or break your tournament at that's not St. Andrews, but at the Open. Everybody starts on 1, and it's a long day. So that's just one thing to consider. And then what I really want to talk about and pick your brain is there's so much randomness that goes into the Open, not only just the wind, but you could hit a perfect drive that gets the wrong kick in the fairway, and you're one of these coffin bunkers. They call it coffin bunkers for a reason because you're dead in there. You just have to chip right back out, like we saw at the Scottish last week. So that you can hit a perfect drive, and then too big of a miss, you're perfectly all right. And at St. Andrews this week, there's very little rough. And then I'm really waiting. Well, you know what? I might just pause it there. There's so much I have to say with this. I might pause those 2 facts. So wait to the tee times, and then even delay yourself building lineups because we want to get the most accurate weather forecast. And then just consider the randomness that goes into this event. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. This is a great week because, I mean, think about it. You're dialing up lineups on Wednesday night, and they're teeing off not long after you get your lineups locked in, right? So, and to your point, the randomness and ever changing of links golf, right? It can say right now it's going to blow 14, which 14 is nothing, right? We know that on a league style golf course. But that, again, that's susceptible to be changed over the next, I mean, it's Monday. And I know to your point, everybody wants to get out and try to find value on the outright market, but I don't see odds changing significantly this week,
right?
Maybe as much as they do on a normal week-to-week basis. As far as the golf course, and this is what's so interesting about links golf and why I think that some people just don't like links golf, and it comes down to PGA Tour players as well because of the randomness. You hit a perfect tee shot, you end up in a bunker, you make double bogey, and that mentally can take people out of it. And I think that the people that embrace it, And I think it takes a lot of creativity as well, because you're going to be left in situations. We know they're big greens. You're not all big greens, but we know that you're going to be putting a lot. You're going to be in a lot of tight lies. So
no, you're right. They're big greens. They're big
yeah,
greens. Yeah.
yeah. And so to me, it's that's where the creativity, and it's almost like you just can't let it beat you down, because you're going to have times where things bounce the wrong way and you think you hit the perfect shot, but on the turn on the other side of that, it's going to be the opposite, right? You're going to get the bounce. And I think that you have to be it's such a good mental space. And some people embrace links golf and some people don't. Like, I never thought Phil Mickelson would ever win an Open Championship by the way that he flighted his golf ball, the way that he spoke about links golf. But then all of a sudden he embraced it, and it's a different way of playing golf. And I think it's cool. I love watching it once a year or twice a year with the Scottish. But, this being, seaside, it adds a different element. And I think it's fun to get away from the American style golf where everything is pristine, right? Like, the golf course is already browned out. Like, yeah. So aesthetically to the eye, does it look as good as any of these golf courses we're on a week-to-week basis? No, but it's the other elements that make it so much fun. And it's all about kind of embracing the good with the bad. And it's just, I'm excited about it, just because, again, anytime we get to watch something different from what we're used to, and then you add, the major championship on top of it, it's going to be a fun ride and a fun long week. And yeah, I'm sure we got plenty of thoughts on who we like and who don't, even early in the week. But I just love to embrace the kind of chaos that is. I mean, I loved waking up early mornings and like Carnousties blowing 35 and guys
I love that,
crying. Their umbrellas are turned inside out. It's just absolute carnage out there. So I'm pumped about it, man. Even if the wind doesn't blow, and I'll tell you what, if the wind doesn't blow, they're going to tear this course up, and I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, I think will tear this course up regardless. That's something to really talk about. But gosh, if you're going about this like we're playing the 3M this week, you got to stop. This is a huge week to get on FanShare and look at the ownerships. There's just so much random. Hey, let's just say that between John Rahm and Justin Thomas, let's just say they play their A game. Because of the breaks and what happens at links golf, one of them could shoot 8 shots different, and they still are bringing their A game, which we'll pretend their A game is the same. Right. And that's just because of some of these lucky breaks. And so that you gotta kind of consider that. So I'm not even making a model, or what I'm looking at is specific stats that what I think was going to happen. What I think is going to happen, it's fast, it's firm. Fitzpatrick was on Live At today talking about he's never seen it this firm. He said he was talking with the caddy. The caddy's never even seen it this firm at St. Andrews. So we're going to see rollout of 100+ yards on some hole. So many par 4s are going to be drivable. We're seeing 18 drivable today. The Champions, I think it's like 9 is going to be drivable, unless it's kind of into the wind, which might pick up this weekend. There's going to be a couple drivable par 4s. The par 5s are always reachable, even though there's only 2. So we might think, yeah, that brings in the shorter hitters at play. Yeah, probably so. But man, I'm really weighing in around the green, short game, and scrambling, 3-putt avoidance. I know that's being popular. This is a different animal here, so I'm not doing that. And then it's just the wedges. Then I'm looking at wedges from 75 to 100, 100 to 125, 125 to 150, and that's it. So just around the green play in the wedge game, pretty much. A slight also lean on driving distance. And we'll get into that, but that's it. I'm not putting those into a model and it's coming out with one golfer and looking at who's doing well tee to green. No, like, stop it. We can't be doing that this week. And your ownership's going to play a huge role into this too. But yeah, this is not a week for models. This is not a week for, we talk often about trend and rolling reports, not a week for that. I'm looking at just who's a good wedge player, who's around a green player, because people are going to drive near the green. Like, I don't know if you saw the Champions Day today, 18 right there, and then it's to be a chipping fest, and it's going to be a putting fest too. We'll get into why we like some of these guys, and I have a couple fades of some high owned guys that I want to fade. But any other thoughts before we move to the board?
I think there's going to be some funky ownership numbers this week. to where I think that there's going to be some extreme value on guys that you never get extreme value on. I agree with all of your points, right? This is a short game contest. This is to an extent a putting contest, but this is also a creativity contest, right? Like there's guys, and this is why like Spieth, players like they're creative. They know how to get it around the greens. Driving distance is an interesting thing to take a look at because of all the things that we've said. It's going to play firm. It's going to play fast. Guys that have the ability to hit shorter clubs into greens and control their spin, when they're hitting essentially a concrete surface, which is what these greens will be, that is going to matter having a shorter club in your hand. But again, throw all the stats out the window. This is why this is a different contest. It's creativity. It's missing the ball in the right spots. There's times where you can have 70 yards over a pop bunker and have no chance to put it within 25 feet because of where you set yourself up. And I also think this is a golf course where you're going to see guys that can think their way around. They know where to miss it. They know where they can get up and down from. And again, it's going to be a lot of bump and run, lots of putters. It's just a different style of golf. I mean, shit, the greens roll 13 every single week on the PGA Tour. It's not possible for it to be like that here just because of the wind factor.
Right.
And it's also guys finding their stroke, getting the feel down on surfaces that are completely different every other week of the year. And that takes skill, right? We talk about going from Bermuda to Poa to Bent to Zoysia, like all these different grasses. Well, this is completely different because typically the snip is the same across the board. You're just playing different grasses. Well, this is all of a sudden you need to conform to the putting surfaces and the speeds. And some guys pick it up quick and some guys don't. And you can see guys take it serious when we come over here. Tiger, Rory, these guys didn't play in the Scottish. They've just been out playing week in and week out. And it definitely takes different golf to win here. And I do think that not everybody has the game to win an Open Championship. And I could go through the list and throw guys out, but yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be, you have to be creative. And I think the more wedge opportunities you give yourself to be able to control some spin is going to be super vital heading into the weekend.
Yeah, I like that. And shout out to Ryan. Our boy says he's going out there. He'll have tickets for Saturday. What? So yeah, post some pictures. Tag us. We want to see that. Well, let's look at the board. I only have a few names. My pool is going to be very, very small this week, and maybe even get smaller depending on what the weather looks like later in the week. But we started at just do 10K and above. I'm going to be quick because there's one person I want to talk a little bit about, or maybe two. But Rory's a check yes, Scotty a check no, John Rahm a big check yes, Justin Thomas a big check yes, and why is because he ranked second in strokes gained short game, ranked 16th around the green. We know what he does with his wedges. Really like Justin Thomas. Missed the cut last week. The Scottish, not concerned. He's been at St. Andrews. We're working with Tiger. Really like that. Collins a no, not great around the green. I know he can get hot with the putter like he did last year. Don't see it. And then we come to Spieth, the last guy in the 10K range, and everything tells you to play Spieth. Ranked 6th around the green, 21st short game. Is a great scrambler. We know what Spieth is. He's also good with his wedges. Here's what I worry with Spieth, and it's a worry that if he was 10% owned, I wouldn't worry about it. But he's going to be maybe the chalkiest guy outside of Cam. And so what I've been seeing for Spieth is those putting woes have kind of come back. We saw what happened to him Sunday at the Scottish. I saw it a little bit today on the Champions, those 6 holes or 4 holes, whatever they play. And I know that's not a lot to read into, but I'm not comfortable him making a 5-footer right now, and not the Spieth we usually are accustomed to. And so that right there, and maybe it's a justification, but we're going to need some of those when we're talking about playing or fading a high percentage guy. And there's a couple high percentage guys I want to play lower on. And so I'm saying, gosh, well, then I can't play Spieth up there. And his putting woes are giving me a reason not to. It's making me feel better about faded. I know Spieth's your boy. What do you think about that? Or the top range?
Yeah, just to hit on Spieth real quick. And I do think Spieth will have a decent week, right? I don't see him win. And you make a good point with the short putting. Not only is it's strictly the short putting, right? His mid to long range putting's been fine. But the thing is, if you throw in the element of slow greens and wind, all of a sudden that exacerbates your short putting, right? You have to take a bigger stroke than you normally do. The wind is an added element. So I think somebody that struggles with short putting, it's probably not going to be the best week in that area. I'm with you on Colin. Again, the game hasn't even been sharp outside of the short game recently. So I'm willing to go down that road with you. JT and Rahm, I'm 100% on board. Out of the two, JT and Rahm, which one do you favor?
Well, and it's honestly, I think John Rahm's going to be slightly lesser owned. I was high on John Rahm in DFS last week. I'm high. He's coming back. John Rahm, he's one of those guys I watch because I had him in almost every single lineup. He's one of those guys I watched. He was in featured group almost every single day. And on 10 in the Scottish, what did he take, like a triple? He found the coffin bunker again, and he found it again. I think he bogeyed number 10 is that par 5, 3 of the 4 days, I think. And don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. And so that is not normal John Rahm. He found the bunker. He got a tough break and went through the fairway with his drive. One time found like some of the heaviest rough. I think John Rahm played really, really well last week from just the eye test, and he got unlucky. Not to say he wasn't going to win or anything like that. He didn't play that well, but he got tough breaks that, maybe if he didn't get behind a wind gust, maybe if he didn't get that kick that helped rolled into the bunker, and you can make the argument, well, he shouldn't hit in that direction, but there's such a thin line. He played so much better. I mean, he eagled 16 the final day. He played so much better than his score, and I think it's going to be lesser owned. I really like John Rahm. Justin's going to be popular, but it's like, damn, how could he not be popular? Speaking of the wedge play, which is so important, ranks 13th from 125 to 150, and then it gets better. He ranks 100th from 100 to 125 in proximity, and from 75 to 100, which I think the majority of their approach shots for a guy like Justin Thomas are going to come from. He ranks 4th in proximity over the last 24 rounds. And if you want short game, he ranks 3rd over the last 24 rounds in short game. I saw that our boy kind of posted I think it was at 23 to 1. Anyway, on odds, so like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, it's tough to say. Maybe DFS, I like John Rahm, but outright, I kind of like JT. But JT's gonna be popular.
Yeah, and I just think take away. So say JT has a decent week last week, he would probably be the biggest chalk on the board. Missing out on the cut, I think, helps a little bit. The reason I ask is I like both players. And I think I lean John Rahm as well. I wanted to ask it because the element of losing your damn mind based off of good and bad breaks. No one runs hotter under the collar than John Rahm. And so that's an element I can't necessarily quantify that, because it's kind of a guy's attitude on the golf course. But it's interesting. I do want to watch his body language throughout the week.
So let me mention that just from a psychological perspective at that. So let's just pretend that when you're at like peak performance, or when you're an athlete, or even just going day to day and whatever job someone might be listening, you want to maintain like a healthy homeostasis. And so with John Rahm, he's always high strung and always performed well. I believe that's his homeostasis. So he gets pissed off and crazy. Yeah, like good. That's his homeostasis. That's his natural kind of state. I'd be really worried if he didn't get that way and if he was too calm. So that's just maybe playing devil's advocate. But
no, I love it.
I don't worry about that at all. I know some people, say that, but we've seen John Rahm win big tournaments before.
But I'm with you though. To answer your question, Rahm and JT would be my favorite out of the 10K range. Listen, Scotty hasn't been great recently. I'm expecting the ownership numbers for Scotty to be somewhat low because of that. And I think Rory will probably garner some high ownership because he has been solid lately. So, yeah, I think we're both kind of in the same Rahm, JT up there at the 10K range. Those are probably the two I feel most comfortable about.
Yeah, and just for time, we're going to move here pretty quickly. So Cam Smith coming down here. I'm actually Fitzpatrick. No for me. He even said it today. He doesn't really play well at link scores. I'm not doing that. Zalatoris, I'm kind of on the fence with. We'll see. Cam Smith is who we have to talk about. Going to be popular, maybe the highest owned guy. But if you had to make a golfer for this event, maybe this Cam Smith need to be great around the green, need to be great creatively, need to be great with proximity. That's Cam Smith, and his one thing he's not great at is driving accuracy. Will we get wide fairways and minimal rough this week? It's hard not to like Cam Smith. Shane Lowry, DJ is very interesting. DJ played well, and whatever one of people think about Liv, played well within Liv. They didn't drive it that well, but was great with his iron. Well, now we get a little bit of wider fairways. We know when DJ's on with the wedges, he's on with the wedges. So I really like that. Really like Louis. Hasn't played well of late. We know he's won it here, I believe. He's won the Open 4. Been a second here too. The year I think Zach Johnson won. Really like Louis. Tommy Fleetwood is who I want to talk about, who I'm debating. I'm locking in to every single lineup, but it's just ownership dependent. Tommy Fleetwood pops on everything that I'm looking right now, where he's excellent with the wedges and excellent around the green. And he's also in great form, played well last week at the Scottish Open, kind of tried to put himself in contention last week. But if Tommy Fleetwood is under 15%, he's going to be a lock in every single one of my lineups. I love Fleetwood this week. He's my favorite. And just to round out the other two guys I really like in the 8K range is Tony Finau, surprisingly, but he seems like he's going to be popular. So if he's over 15, I might not play him. But then who I really just want to mention, and I just kind of have a feeling about, and that's Bryson. Not so much. I know the driving distance. The driving distance is there, but I think the majority for a guy like him, proximity from 75 to 100 is going to be important. And Bryson ranks 7th over the last 24 rounds within that. And we know he's, creative or a scientist, whatever adjective you want to use to describe his goofy ass, like whatever. I see him playing well, and I know he's coming off an injury. He played well in Portland, and I like it. And you know what? I actually looked up putting stats on firm greens within where it's there's wind and it's fast and firm, and he ranks 9th in strokes gained putting in some of those categories. He's going to be super low owned, maybe 5%. And so those are just the guys I really like around the 9 and the 8K range. It's a lot of golfers, but really leaning on Fleetwood. And then, some dart throws is, Bryson.
Yeah.
I'll say one last thing. I know I'm taking a lot of the air, but the live bias is real. And so DJ Bryson and Gooch, too, who I'm going to talk about here in a minute. But, yeah. What do you think about those range?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the Bryson train myself. And I also think is not only is he value in DFS because of the reasons you've named, but if you're an outright guy, you can get a 150 burger on Bryson right now, which a year ago seems like a crazy stat. And just to hit on your point with Fleetwood real quick, I also think you have the opportunity for somewhat lower ownership based off who's he kind of sandwiched around on that board. You have Brooks Koepka there, which we haven't mentioned. I'm not sure that he's worthy of us mentioning at this point based off of the way he's played. The guy we didn't mention is Xander. Clearly he's playing well. Interested to see if people are of the idea where it's impossible to win back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
But I'm with you on DJ. I am going to be playing Tony Finau as well, depending on ownership. The other guy I want to touch on is Joaquin Niemann. Really, really like the way that he flights the ball throughout his entire bag. And I think around this place is beneficial. Him being somewhat of an above average driving distance guy is going to be way, way further this week with the run out. So I like Niemann. So I'm going to say Niemann, DJ, and probably Patrick Cantlay I could get behind. I think it's just wild. Like Hovland's kind of, you just can't trust the short game, right? Brooks, again, we haven't even talked about. It's kind of weird territory. Sung JM potentially could be your pivot off Finau if Finau's ownership gets too high. But definitely Niemann is kind of my go-to there in the low 8K range.
Yeah, I like that Niemann call. I was on him big last week at the Scottish and struggled to find over the weekend. He played well around the green and putted really well, but especially the first 2 days. But our boy from Back Nine Bets, who's actually he's a great follow. I shouldn't say actually,
Man.
it's not a surprise at all. Is one to talk about Keegan. I don't have the stomach for it. I don't have an overwhelming opinion on Keegan. The only thing is he won't be in my player pool, and he's garnering, at least on Twitter in our little bubble, some popularity. So I don't know what it'll be, but if he's 5% owned, maybe I will. But nothing is saying playing him. But there's actually a guy, Keegan and this other guy who I'm about to talk to are like stroke game gods. Like they always pop because they're great ball strikers. But I much prefer Russell Henley. Again, if we want wedges and someone who's good around the green, there's no better golfer in over the last 24 rounds with his wedges cumulative than Russell Henley. From 125 to 150 ranks 6th, from 100 to 125 ranks 8th. And again, what I think is the most important range, because Henley's long enough, is 75 from 100. Henley ranks 1st in proximity from that range. Decent around the green, very streaky with the putter, kind of like Keegan. But I much prefer Russell Henley to Keegan Bradley. But I do want to talk about two others. I don't love this range. I don't, but there's two loves I really do have, and they're both live boys. Patrick Reed. Yeah, Patrick Reed played really well in Portland, finished 3rd. Kind of played with putter. A good putter guy, again, around the green, can wedges. The wide fairways, we know we can get loose with the driver. Really like Patrick Reed. And then a first time, I think playing links, probably competitively. Maybe you went over to the Dunhill event, but the first time at the Open. But it's Taylor Gooch. Gooch again played well at Portland, but this seems like a Gooch type of event where excellent around the green, not a great actually off the driving, but that might not bother him, and it might just come down to those lucky breaks. So those are only the few guys, and maybe Christian Bezaidno too. Maybe him. Poston was actually interesting as well, and Thomas Peters. But those are my really big leans in the 7K range. Who do you like maybe in this range?
Before I go real quick, what about Tiger?
Yeah. You know what? I'm kind of interested in the playing Tiger. We'll see. I'm kind of concerned is that the putting and wedge play hasn't been up to his stuff, but similar to kind of like Augusta, that nobody might not know it better than him, and he can kind of get his way. I think he's an interesting like top 40 bet. I haven't even looked at that, and so maybe numbers dependent. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and Tiger always garnishes DFS ownership to make it kind of you will not want to play him. So I'll hit on Billy Horschel. I think Billy Horschel is another guy that has played a ton on the European Tour. I know he loves links golf. He's kind of a bulldog. He keeps it together. I do like him. I'm going to go back to Justin Rose. I know Justin Rose was kind of disappointing over the weekend.
Oh, he killed me. He cost me so much money over the weekend. Oh my God, he shot eight over on Saturday. I thought I was gonna the top prize of that contest was 100K. I thought it was gonna be a shot to win it, and it's 8 over. It was the worst round of the day on Saturday. Justin Rose.
I'm sorry about that.
I'm triggered.
I can tell, and I apologize. I didn't mean to bring it up. The Bezuidenhout, it's an interesting play. He just doesn't make birdies in tons of bunches outside of 2 weeks ago. I can get behind the Patrick Reed thing. This is a weird range for me as well, right? I do like Justin Rose. I can get talked into Seamus Power. I know there's a lot of pressure kind of being in the home country, but I do like him. Billy Horschel is definitely my lean from this area. Just to hit on the Keegan thing real quick for Byron. I know he missed the cut last week. And listen, to your point, he's a model breaker. Him and Russell Henley will break anybody's model, right? Yeah. They're always going to be up at the top. But I talked earlier about kind of if conforming and trying to get a feel on different greens. And I just don't know of a guy like him and struggling putting, how well it holds up over 4 rounds to go to link style golf courses with slower greens. So I do kind of see that as somewhat of a red flag when we're talking about Keegan. But I'm with you. I think Taylor Gooch is a wonderful play. But I'm going to be in Justin Rose, probably Seamus Power, and then Billy Ho.
I love it. Well, let's go. I know we're losing time, but I'm going to go to my sicko plays. And there's one I love. And he was a popular sleeper last week. And I think he missed the cut. And I think he's going to get forgotten this week. And that's Lucas Herbert. So surprised with just looking into some of the stats I think are going to go well here. So we're looking at around the green play. Over the last 24 rounds, Lucas Herbert ranks 5th around the green, 1st in short game, 8th in 3-putt avoidance, ranks 21st in scrambling. Herbert is also right there with some of the wedges. He's kind of middle of the pack, but a good drive of the golf ball, 23rd in driving distance, but again, 1st in short game over the last 24 rounds. Played well. Again, missed a cut last week at the Irish Open, played really well. I think he got a top 10. Yeah, he finished 9th. That wasn't real link style golf course, but at 6,900, really, really love Lucas Herbert.
Underrated player, dude. He is. Underrated player.
And if we want to go to windy and firm conditions, if we're looking on Fantasy National, so surprised. And very windy conditions on fast, like lightning fast and firm greens. He ranks 9th in short games, 13th around the green, 13th in putting, and 36th in DK points, and he's 6,900. Again, we'll depend on what the tee time draws and all that bullshit. Really like him. Henrik Stenson, 7K, kind of like him. Patrick Harrington is another guy I want to talk about.
It's going to be one of mine. I love it. Let's go.
Yeah, missed the cut, but he missed the cut at a course he actually consulted on. But that was his actually 7th, I think, event in 6 weeks because he played that Pro-Am, whatever it was, that week. So he's just McMahon. Yeah, he was just exhausted. I like Padre to come back. Has played well here in the past, and then another sleeper that I really like, and it seems like a poor man's version of Lucas Herbert, who's maybe even more talented long term. But that's Wyndham Clark, a guy who can smash it off the tee. We know that, but surprisingly good around the green. Over the last 24 rounds, he ranks 10th around the green and 7th in short game. And I'm going to pull up his wedge play right here, and it's like okay. I mean, he's middle of the pack with the wedges, but 2nd in driving distance, 11th short game over the last 24. Really, really like that. Actually, 7th in short game over the last 24. So really like Wyndham Clark as well, and then played really well at the Scottish. So a true test. He was fast, firm greens there. Played well last week. Who do you like?
You and I, and this is going to be good for time as well, but we're actually at a lot of the same random people down here in the 6K range. I like Wyndham Clark as well. Just a guy that can just straight up move it, get it out there. The one guy I'll throw is Ha-Tong Lee. He's my boy. There's not a lot of data on him. He plays a lot of European Tour. He had a decent week at the Scottish Open last week. Sitting there, 6,700. I'm okay with that. To me though, I'm with you on Lucas Herbert. The first thing I wanted to do is say, hey, let me play Keith Mitchell. But you look at Keith Mitchell's game, it just doesn't make sense here. It doesn't make any sense. I know he can hit it a long way, but I do love the Wyndham Clark play, and I'm also on Padraig Harrington. Padraig Harrington is one of those guys that can just get it around still to this day. And he's and you said he's played 7 times in the last 6 weeks. That's just kind of how he's always been, right? He's a gym rat. Much hand in hand here in the 6K range. I'm sure there's some other guys there when we look down the list, but when you get down to the bottom, shit gets kind of dark, right? It gets real dark. Yeah. So you're definitely capping it like 6,600 and kind of going from there.
Yeah, I know there's Woos down there and a few others that people might want to play, but no, I'm not.
I'm with you, man.
Well, good show. I thought we got to a lot of good stuff there, and we'll just maybe kind of close for the people that have been listening and watching to the approach. We very much appreciate your involvement and you kind of supporting. It really means a lot and kind of fueled us to kind of keep going. But I just can't express enough about your all support and the community around it, and sending us DMs or sharing when you win, or your thoughts or your questions. It sticks with us maybe even more than you realize. So appreciate your journey with us for how it's been. And I know I have a kid coming and we got a lot going on, but just really appreciate the community and how supportive and you guys following along. It's touching. It really is. So appreciate you all for that.
Thanks, Byron. No, hey, and shout out to you, man. We're I know we're doing this show with you. I'm excited for you. You got big time adult shit going on your end, and you're soon to be a father. So that's the greatest thing of all. And I'm sure we'll be we'll be back. We'll just figure it out. You'll but lots of good things. I've had a lot of fun this year as well. And again, to your point, Rob, appreciate everybody. I look forward to doing this show every Monday that we can do it. And until next time, I wish you and your wife the best and happy and healthy moving forward, man. So I appreciate you as well as everybody else, and look forward to what things unfold here. Before we know it.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you all. Good luck this week. The final major of the year, bittersweet, but we're going to have a fun time. Good luck, everybody.